A very warm welcome to a new episode of the Data Science Daily series. And yesterday we talked about lists and tuples. Today we will be talking about dictionaries. And dictionaries are very popular data structures in Python used to store key value pairs. So today's goal is to understand the different operations in dictionaries in a lot of detail. We will go slowly. Make sure you're watching it step by step, following through in your own Jupyter notebook. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will answer them as soon as I can. So let's get started with today's agenda, which is talking about dictionaries and the main operations of dictionaries. All right. So I hope my Python notebook or the Jupyter notebook is visible now. Today is the fourth part of our operations on basic data types series. So as always, the first step is to increase the width of the Jupyter notebook. Let me just execute this cell. So you will see that the width has increased, and we will go into dictionaries now. So what are dictionaries? These are fundamental data structures in Python used to store key value pairs. Think of an Oxford dictionary. The concept is very, very similar. So in an Oxford dictionary, you have words and you have their meanings, right? You have different words listed alphabetically and you have the meanings of those words. In Python, think of that as key value pairs, where the key is the word and value is the meaning in an Oxford dictionary. Similarly, in a Python dictionary object, you have key value pairs that are stored and which are basically demarcated by commas. So we will see this in action shortly. Let's have a quick recap first. Dictionary stores data in key value pairs. This is the first main takeaway. These are unordered collection of items. Remember, they are unordered. There is no order as such of the key value pairs, right? So if let's say there are 10 key value pairs, that doesn't mean that the key value pairs which is mentioned first in the dictionary is order 1, right? There is no order. It's an unordered collection of items. Items being key value pairs here. And dictionaries are mutable. It's not that they are immutable. Remember, dictionaries are mutable. You can modify them once they are created as well. So I'm creating my dictionary, and dictionaries use curly braces, right? For a quick recap, lists use square brackets, tuples use parentheses, and dictionaries use curly braces, right? So I am defining the braces, and then within it, I'm saying Monty string colon the int 98 and then a comma, and then I'm giving another key value pair John colon 87 and then another key value pair demarcated by a comma Rita colon 93, and I'm ending it with a bracket, closing bracket. So this is my dict, and I'm assigning this particular dictionary to a variable called my_dict, and I'm just executing this on the cell, and I'm seeing that Python has stored this. And if I also do a type of my dict, Python understands that this is a dictionary, right? So this is what a dictionary is. Now, how do we create dictionaries? To create an empty dictionary, simply use curly braces, right? That is ready to be filled. So use curly braces, just open the curly brace and close it, and that's what will give you an empty dictionary. So I'm initializing a variable called empty_dict is equal to opening curly bracket, curly brace, and closing curly brace. And this is what my empty dict is now. Now note that sets also have curly braces, right? So why is this not a set? If you want to initialize a set, you will need to use a different operation, right? And we will see that in the next session where we are talking about sets in a lot of detail. But just to confirm that what you have initialized is actually an empty dictionary, if you do type of empty dict, it will give you that this is a dictionary. So this is an empty dictionary that you have initialized. This is not a set. Keep that in mind. A tricky question. And you can also initialize dictionaries with key value pairs like we just did in the beginning, right? So fruits_dict for this example, apple is red, banana is yellow, mango is orange colored, right? And that's the way you can initialize it. Just mention the key value pairs directly. Okay, so we have created dictionaries. Let's understand how do we access elements of the dictionary and modify the elements. So first step is how do you retrieve the values? So you need to basically use the key within the square brackets. So let's say you have the dictionary fruits underscore dict, right? Let me just print it out onto the console what this is. So this is my dictionary, fruits underscore dict. I want to find out the value for a particular key, right? That's what I'm trying to do here. So for the key that is apple, I want to find out the value. So the way I would do it is I would call the dictionary and I would create a square bracket to basically kind of retrieve the value, right? And mention the key name or key name here, the key value here basically. I'll just call it key name, right? So mention the key name here. So the fruits dict, right? And then apple, which is the key, and I'm assigning that to a variable called color. So if I do that, basically the value has been returned from this operation, right? And that is red. So this has been returned, right? So this is how you can use the key within the square brackets to access the corresponding value. This is about retrieving values from a dictionary for a particular key. How do you modify the values? You can assign a new value to the existing key using the is equal to assignment operator within square brackets. So what is within square brackets here? So I'm basically modifying. So fruits dict banana earlier was yellow, and this is what my fruits underscore dict looked like. And banana is yellow. Now, if I want to modify the value for this particular key, I again need to call the key fruits underscore dict, then banana, and then I will have an assignment operator and change the value here. I'm changing the value for the key here, which is banana. And banana will now become pale yellow. So if I'm printing the dict again onto the console, you will see that banana has become pale yellow, right? Okay. So this is about modifying values in a dictionary. Now, how do you add new elements? A very similar kind of an operation is done. Whatever key value pair you want to add, you will simply say fruits underscore dict, that new key is equal to that new value. And Python will automatically add that key value pair to that dictionary, right? So similar here. Earlier, you will see that there was no grapes, purple. This key value pair does not exist. Now, because I'm saying that, fruits underscore dict and square brackets, which is saying the key, this particular key will be equal to value of purple. It understands that I need to add the key value pair and it adds it. Right? Basically, it's adding this key with this value, mapping that, and then adding it. All right. So we have understood how do you access and modify elements. Let's come to the next one. How do you check for the keys and the values? Let's look at the existence of a key. How do you check for that? Whether that key is there in the dictionary or not. You use the in operator to do that. The in operator verifies if a key exists within the dictionary. For example, my fruits underscore dict has the fruit mango within it, right? That is a third key value pair. It's not right to say it's the third one because remember this is not ordered. It's just there, right? So if I do mango in fruits underscore dict, so it'll basically check whether mango is there in the fruits underscore dict keys, not values, right? So this will work. But if I do, let's say, orange in fruits underscore dict, this will be false. So basically the in operator checks whether a key is existing within the dictionary, not value. Checks whether the data we are checking for is a key within the dictionary. It doesn't check for values. Doesn't check for values. Okay. So this is clear. Doesn't check for values. Now let's take one more. Pomegranate. This is a fruit. Is this in fruit stick? Obviously, this is not. We can't see that. So here I want to introduce the not in operator, right? You can also use a not in kind of a statement. So pomegranate not in, you can see that this is colored differently, similar to in. Not in is also an operator, right? Pomegranate not in fruits underscore dict, and this is returning true because it is not there, right? So this statement is true. That's why it is returning the Boolean true. And just a quick recap, if I do type of this, it's a bool, right? This is a Boolean. Okay. Now, how do you get a value, right? So one more way to get a value, one thing is you can simply, call the dictionary, create a square bracket, mention the key name there, and you will get the value. But you can also use the get method. And what the get method will help you do is it helps you retrieve the value for a key. And if the key is missing, you can mention a default value that you want to return, right? So for example, here, broccoli is not there in the dictionary. Why? Because in fruits underscore dict, this is the dictionary that we are working with. Apple, banana, mango, grapes. Now, if I say fruits underscore dict dot get broccoli, not a fruit, what is this doing basically? So dot get is the method. The first argument, we call these arguments. So this is the first argument to this function. That's the terminology we use in Python. So the first argument is broccoli, which is the key, right? See in the definition, this is the key. And the second one is the default value. If the key is not there, what do you want it to return? The get function to return. That is the default value. Here, the default value is not a fruit. So fruits underscore dict dot get this thing. If I assign that to a value and then print it, right? It is basically saying it's not a fruit because it's not there, right? So this is what I can do. But notice that if I do the same thing for mango is there in the data. So this default will not get called, right? So what it will do is it will get, when I do fruits underscore dict dot get mango, it will get me the value for the key that is mango, that is orange. So it will get me the orange value, and that is the value it is getting. So dot get basically will get you the value for that key that you're mentioning and you're trying to retrieve, right? And it will also help you mention a default in case that key is not present. So basically, if the key is not present, there's no value present. So what should it return? It will return a default, and you have to mention that default. Okay, let's look at iterating over dictionaries. Now, you can loop through the keys. Now, looping is something which we will discuss in a lot of detail in the subsequent sessions. There are for loops, while loops, and so on. I'm just wanting to demonstrate the basic operations over dictionaries here, and that's why loop is also coming in. So looping through keys. Let's say this is my dictionary. What I can do is for key in my dict, right? For is the main loop function. It's saying for each key in my dict, print the key, right? For each key in my dict, print the key. So what it is doing is it's going through the first key, which is name, the second one, which is age, the third one, which is city, and printing it. I'm just saying in my dict, right? So my dict also has values, but it understands that, I just want to look for keys. And that has nothing to do with the fact that I've named this variable key. Even if I do it I, it will still print the keys for me. So the name of this iterable, we call these iterables, doesn't matter. Sorry, this iterator, this is an iterator, this doesn't matter, right? Okay, so this is looping through keys. You can loop through the keys in a data set. This section, don't worry too much about it. We will be covering for loops in a lot of detail. Make sure you're watching that video and then coming back to this if this is not clear. Then you can also look through key value pairs. So if you do mydict.items, it will return you a dict items data type, which is kind of like a list, right, inside it, but it's a dict items data type basically, which will have the key value pairs in tuples, right? So this is the first element, this is the second element, this is the third element, right? So it will have the key value pairs. And what you can do is you can loop through these again, right? So I'm just looping through the for key comma value in mydict.items print. I'm using the f string, right? Remember the f string substitutes the value of that variable, which is called. So here I'm calling key variable and value variable within the string. It will do that and it will format that properly. So it is formatting first name colon Alice, because there is a space between colon and the value. So there is a space again here, right? If I mention 3 spaces, it will print it like that, right? So it's actually following this format. Then it is going to the next one. So once it's printing it, it's going back to the top of the loop. It's taking the next key value, it's printing that, right? It's executing this, and then it's going back to the next one and then printing it. And once it has covered everything, it is stopping, right? That's how this is working. You can also loop through keys and values separately. Basically just call dot keys, right? This is a method called for getting the keys in the dictionary, and you can get dot values to get all the values in the dictionary, right? So we talked about 3 main methods: dot items, which will give you the key value pairs, right? These will be tuples within a dict items data type object. Second one is dot keys. It will give you a dict underscore keys object. And the third one is dot values. It will give you all the values in the dictionary, right, in a dict values object with only the values. All right, let's see how do you remove elements. You can remove by the key. So whatever element you want to remove, you have to reference that by the key. So use the del method to remove a specific key value pair. So this is my dict. Let's say I want to remove the age key value pair, right? So age colon 30. So I simply call del my dict age, and it will delete it for me. Notice that this is very similar to what we saw in lists in the last session. Del is also applicable for lists, and it is making the change. It is changing the underlying object, so that nothing is getting printed when I'm deleting it, but the underlying dictionary is automatically getting changed. I don't need to assign this del function to one more variable, right? It is automatically changing the underlying variable. All right, so that we can remove by key. Now we can also remove specific items, and that is where we can use pop. Now remember, the main difference between pop and del methods is that pop returns a specific element that is getting removed, right? It returns the removed element. Now let's look at an example. So this is my dict. Now in dictionaries, pop has to have 2 arguments. Basically, it has 2 arguments. The first argument is the key that you want to remove. The second argument is, if that key is not there in the dictionary, what do you want to return from pop, right? Okay. So if I'd say removed item is equal to my dict.pop name. Name is the key in the dictionary, right? Is the key in the dictionary that I want to, key value pair basically, that I want to remove, but I'm referencing it by the key. When I call dot pop name, the value that will be returned by this function, the pop function, will be the value corresponding to name, that is Alice, right? So if I say removed item is equal to mydict.pop name, it will give me Alice, right? And now if I see my dict again, you will see that it has removed the name Alice key value pair, right? Okay, now if I try to again remove the name key, right, there's no name key now, I already removed it. Now what basically it will give me, it will give me a key error which is saying name is not there, right? Now one way to handle this is, if you're not sure if a key is there or not, what you can do is you can mention a default value that you want to return. So what I will say is mydict.pop name, this first argument is the key that you want to remove, right? The second argument is the key not present. This is the value that will get returned. So in this case, if I run this, removed item will be key not present, and my dict has not changed because there was no name key in the my dict. So nothing has changed, but just the thing is that function is not giving an error anymore, and it is returning this default value which I have mentioned to key not present. So wherever a key is not present, you need to mention a default value if you want to avoid that key error. Okay, let's look at dictionary size and membership. Very simple commands. How do you get the number of key value pairs? You can use the len function to get the dictionary's length, very similar to tuples and lists, right? So my dict is this, num items is equal to length of my dict, and that is 1. And you can also check for an empty dictionary, right? So if I have an empty dictionary, let me initialize this empty dict. Actually, we already have that, right? So if I say empty dict bool, either I can do this or I can say length of empty dict. both of these work. So if you want to check for an empty dictionary, if you do a bool will also give you a false. Wherever bool gives you a false, remember the value is not there, right? Either it is none or it is it's just not there. So right, empty list is also false. Empty tuple is also false. But if you have any value in the tuple, it will become true, right? So basically, it is checking whether there is any data or not. So if it is an empty dict, bool will give us false. If there is any data, it will give us true. So here it is giving us false, or you could just check the length, and that will also help you check for an empty dictionary. Now, how do you merge dictionaries? That's another interesting operation to understand. And remember, dictionaries are mutable. That's why you can update them once they have been created. So we will use the update function to update one dictionary with another dictionary, right? Very similar to the extend method in lists, where you are basically appending elements of another list or tuple to the primary list, right? So you can also append elements of a tuple to that list using the extend method. Here for dictionaries, we can append the key value pairs of the second dictionary to the first dictionary using the update method. So my underscore dict is this, right? New underscore dict is job is software engineer. So basically these are attributes of the person Alice. Now the update method will update the dictionary in place. That is, it modifies the underlying dictionary object. So my dict.update new dict. And you will see that if I run this again, the job has been added to my underscore dict. So this is the updated dictionary that we have come up with. And notice that in tuples and lists, we were also able to add it simply, right? We were able to add to tuples, add to lists, right? Here, this will not work, right? This is an unsupported operand type plus. Operator is not supported. All right, something to keep in mind. And lastly, coming to some additional operations, clearing a dictionary using the clear method. So this is my dictionary, my underscore dict. If I say my dict.clear, it will clear every key value pair in place. So it will change the underlying my underscore dict object. And if I, again print it to the console, the dictionary has been cleared. It's an empty dictionary. So if I say, let's say length of my underscore dict, you will see that this becomes 0. There is no key value pair now after the clear operation. And you can think of why this is important, right? If you are creating dictionaries, if you want to just clear it, instead of initializing one more dictionary, right? This is a better way to do it. And checking for key mutability. Remember, keys need to be immutable. So that can be strings, numbers, or tuples. This ensures they remain unique identifiers within the dictionary. Values, however, can be any data type. So values can be anything. It can be mutable, immutable, anything, but the keys have to be immutable. I will take 4 examples, right? Valid key 1 is name. Name is a string. It is immutable. So that will work. I'm trying to create a dictionary here with one key value pair. This will work. Second one is an integer 30, valid key 2, and I'm again creating a dictionary. It will work. Third one is a tuple, right? 1, 2, 3, and this will work. However, there is an invalid key for tuple as well. If the underlying element is, let's say, a list, now it cannot be used as a key. Why? Because this has become unhashable. This relates back to our initial discussion in one of the sessions on immutable versus immutable versus hashable, right? So if I do this, and if I again, let's say, take invalid key tup, it's an unhashable type, right? This will throw me an error. Tuple has a mutable element, so it cannot be used as a key for a dictionary. Something to again keep in mind. Very important concept. And then finally, if you have a list itself, obviously it will not work, right? 1 second. Invalid key is again unhashable. This is the error. All right. So we have covered dictionaries, and we have covered a lot of ground today, understanding the main operations in dictionaries. Let me have a quick recap of what all we covered. So we started off with a quick recap. We talked about creating dictionaries, right? Accessing and modifying elements, checking for keys and values, whether they exist within the dictionary or not, iterating over dictionaries using the for loop, using .items, .keys, .values, removing elements using pop and the del methods, dictionary size using the length method, membership using the in operator, merging dictionaries using the update method, additional operations like clear, right? And so on. Next session, we'll talk about sets. Stay tuned. If you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.